Hello and welcome to That Interview podcast. We're into series 2 today, and this podcast is all about helping school leavers get ready for the wonderful world of work, and more specifically, that first interview experience. I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Helen Sanders. How are you, Helen?
I'm wonderful, obviously. I'm good.
Obviously.
How are you doing, Ash?
I'm all right. I'm really looking forward to this series. We've got at least one brilliant guest lined up, and our guest today as well, obviously, who's also brilliant. How are you feeling about this series?
Yeah, everyone that we've spoken to has been fantastic. So I don't quite know how we beat it each time, but you and I both know this person, and we both know that they are really fantastic at what they do and add so much value to their communities and young children across the country. So yeah, it's going to be enlightening, I'm sure.
This is going to be special because it's not just that we're going to get to speak to somebody who has obviously interviewed and employed loads and loads of young people, but isn't that far from being a young person himself, but also works in schools. So he has a real insight into what makes kids tick, which I think is going to be fascinating. So, a little drum roll. We shall bring in Tom Warrender from Medical Mavericks. Hello, Tom. How are you, mate?
I'm really good. How are you, Ash?
Excellent. I'm absolutely fine. The sun is shining mostly on my face through the window, and yeah, life's all right. It's good. I've been playing golf, so that always makes me happy.
Oh, lovely. I've been running again recently, so I'm much happier than I was.
That's brilliant. So, Tom, tell the world what it is that Tom does, what it is that you do. What's the change you make in the world?
Well, we take a real hospital into schools and let students experience using real medical equipment in the classroom to find out about how their body works, how the equipment works, but most importantly, what actually goes on inside the NHS. So, everyone thinks it's just doctors and nurses in there, and they get, like in the news recently, all the newsreaders, all the doctors and nurses are doing this, and that's 2 careers out of 350 in the NHS. There's a whole world there that you can go and explore, and a lot of students we talk to don't know anything other than doctors, nurses, physios, midwives. So our job is to show students in schools about all the amazing careers they can go into, and that you don't have to be a level 9 A-star genius to go and do these jobs. If you just get a good solid set of GCSEs, like pretty much every single student in the country gets, there is a career for you in the NHS if that's what you want to go and do. And that's pretty much what we do. We're all about showing students what goes on in the NHS, get excited about science and technology, engineering and maths, that lovely word STEM. So that's what we're all about. So we've got an online academy now which does virtual work experience. We've got posters, we've written 2 books, so there's loads of stuff that we do, but it's all about just raising kind of student aspirations towards a career in the NHS.
Tom, we need to clone you, don't we? We need more of you in this world, that is for sure.
That's very kind, thank you, Helen.
Well, I'm sure like us, it's been quite a difficult year, and you just kind of cracked on, and I always find that amazing when people that have that sort of what can we do attitude rather than worrying about what you can't.
Well, yeah, that's
a real lesson,
Yeah, definitely. It's what else we're going to do. It's like we're just going to sit here and stew, and that gets boring after about 5 days. So let's do some of the stuff. So that's what we've done in these weird times. We've kind of adapted and grown and moved on.
Yeah, cool. So Helen, do you want to ask the first question of Tom? Should we go that?
Yeah,
you go first today.
I mean, you've recruited a team around you. It's not just you in Medical Mavericks, it's lots of other people as well, and they can be young people. What do you look for when you are hiring people into your team?
I think what we look for, the way we set our process out when we recruit someone helps us look for what we look for. If I kind of explain our little process. So when we put like a job advert out, put all the usual stuff in there about, send us your CV and maybe a covering letter or things like that. But we put some really specific instructions in there about what we want them to do. And if you don't follow those instructions, we're not going to follow you up. Even if your CV is amazing, we're not going to follow you up. So I'm looking for people that can read something and follow some instructions, but have that kind of enthusiasm. So we ask people to send us a video, a voicemail, a letter, a poster that they've drawn. Be creative, because what we do is, is fairly creative in that we're talking to students and going into schools and being active with students face to face in schools. So we need someone that's kind of vibrant, enthusiastic, can communicate well. So if we can get someone to read a piece of communication and follow the instructions in that communication, and then show us what their communication skills are like, whether it's verbally, on camera, via a written thing or a poster, that's a great big tick in the box. You don't have to be, it's just having that enthusiasm for the role that we've advertised. We're really clear in what the role is when we advertise. And that some of the challenges that the role brings. It's quite a tough role traveling around the country. You've got to be up for that. So we want someone that's, okay, this looks like a really cool role. There's some challenges in there, but I'm going to be really enthusiastic about this. I really want to work with young people, help mold what they want to go and do in the future. And if they can communicate that via what we've asked them to do, that's a great big tick in the box. Even if we've got like two people, one with a first class degree and one that's got a 2-2 degree, I'm looking at what they've sent to me as a communication tool.
I could give you a big hug right now, Tom, because that is so what I work day in, day out with business owners just like you to hire these people. And if you just rely on a CV, you can't make a decision based on, am I intrigued by this person based on their CV? It's really hard. So I love the fact that you're doing that something else. If I'm a 17-year-old applying to your company now, why am I going to be excited about your company over all the other companies? Just say, send me a CV and a covering letter. So think of it that way around. You've made yourself more appealing to me as well to apply to you, to see if we can work together. So I love it.
And you get some really cool stuff back as well. Excuse me. So there's some really nice, just one person camera shots, just talking for like 5 minutes about themselves and what they've done. And they've kind of done this, they've kind of done like a video CV, if you like, which is perfect, which is a really nice thing to do. And then some people have created a comic book. I think we had one person that worked for us, and they created this amazing 4-page kind of comic poster thing, telling us all about their life, why they should be employed by Medical Mavericks. And it was just awesome. It was all hand drawn. It was sent in the post. Someone sent us a memory stick in the post, and you put the memory stick in your computer, and it played this video. They then filmed it all on their phone. It was basically, why should you employ me as a employee?
Love it.
And they did all these kind of little funny skits and stuff, real loads of imagination in there. You just go,
how can you not interview that person? How can you not?
You up, and I'm going to give you the job, essentially. And they don't, obviously I do interview them, but I've pretty much made up my mind before I meet them that they're going to get the job.
So you haven't, sorry, Tom, you haven't mentioned, so the question we asked you, what do you look for in a young person? You haven't well, apart from first class degree, but you haven't actually mentioned qualifications.
No.
I mean, they are important for us, because we are looking at something that's medically based, science based, health based. So we kind of look for someone that would have that kind of background. That is important to us. You're going to be using all kinds of medical equipment, and teachers are going to talk to you, and students are going to talk to you about your experiences at university and what you've studied. So we do need some kind of synergy there with the qualifications that you've got from a university, if you've gone to university for that role. But I've employed 2 people that didn't have maybe that much of a health or science background. We employed one person that's got an animal science degree. So, but we took them on because they had really great enthusiasm, really good communication, and they just seemed to fit, and they had some understanding of what biology and physiology is. But we have employed people that have just had like a performing arts degree as well, or a dance. I think it was performing arts and dance was their kind of qualification. And we employed them to be our assembly deliverer. They went out and delivered assemblies for us initially.
Yeah, cool.
So they didn't really need to know what they were talking about essentially in great depth. They just had to perform and put the show on for the assembly and do all the follow-up stuff we wanted them to afterwards. Now, over time, because they're doing this role and they're using the kit more, they're with our staff that know a little bit more, they build up their knowledge base and we train them up to learn more. They went on and did workshops, and they could deliver a full medical or sports science workshop, even though they've got no background in that area at all.
So normally we ask, what do you look for in a CV or an interview? But actually, you've kind of answered that, because what you're looking for is a proven ability to learn some complex stuff and deliver it and engage in young people.
Yeah, it's that word enthusiasm again. If you're coming to me to work for me, I'm making a commitment to you to employ you, and you're going to give the commitment to me to do the job I'm asking you to do. Yeah. I want you to be enthusiastic about your role, and if you're enthusiastic and showing willingness, I'm going to give you the time and the training to improve yourself. And the role we have at Medical Mavericks, our guys don't stick around for more than 2 years really in a delivery role, and that's not because they don't enjoy the job. It's because it's quite a tough role. Traveling up and down the country 4 or 5 days a week does take its toll a little bit, and we're quite aware of that. So we make people aware of this right at the start of the process and on their first day in the job. But what I do tell them is, you're going to work for us, and I'm going to train you and give you skills that you won't learn at university or at school. Not just about how to deliver a workshop, but things like how a business works, how marketing works. Even if this isn't of interest to you, when you go and work for your next company, you'll be a better catch. Yeah, definitely. I do a whole series of sessions with my new staff on like the finances of the business, all the ins and outs, the profit and loss, the gross margins and all that kind of stuff. And they go, I had no idea that's what's involved in a company. I now understand why you've had to make that decision on why you book it in those type of hotels, and why you've had to take that booking to do this, and it just brings them all together as part of a team. That I'm not just making decisions on a whim about why we can't get the van fixed or why we can't do this piece of kit this week, and it's all because of the financials that they understand.
Yeah, Tom, seriously, you need to talk to more business owners about that. Because very often people think it's a very one-sided, you're coming to work for me, I am the boss, this is my company, and you're here, I've given you a job. Well, no, they've also given you their life for a couple of years. And if they then leave a better person, more well-rounded, with fantastic skills, where they always talk about their time with you with passion and enthusiasm, there's that word again, it's that word, then isn't it? That's our job done, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you a couple of examples, like, because I used to think like that, like, I'm the boss, you work for me, and like I got quite knocked off once for when a member of staff didn't take a role because they wanted to go and work. Oh, sorry, that was my microphone just moved then, sorry.
You're all right.
When they so a member of staff that worked for me didn't take on a full-time role or a part-time because they still wanted to work at Argos. And at that time, my kind of chimp brain, my animal brain, was like, what do you want to go work at Argos for, man? It's like, come on, work. You work for me. And I didn't understand what they wanted out of kind of their life. They were happy doing that, and they really loved their job there as well. And now it's like that's fine. I'd help you do that if that was the case. I also understand that the wages that I'm paying someone are going to be funding that person's life. So, it could be saving for their first house deposit. It could be, buying their first car. I'm employing kind of 21 to 24-year-olds in these delivery roles. We have employed older, by the way, but kind of typically that's the age range.
Generally, yeah.
Coming to us, and they're at the start of their life. I've had the opportunity to help people save for their first house deposit. Like one member of staff a few years ago wanted to work for me, but the salary wasn't as much as they needed. But they really wanted to work for me. So I said, look, we'll do your basic at like a certain salary, But if you stick with me for the next year, because I really need you for the next year, your expertise, your experience, I need for the next year. So if you stick with me, at the end of the year, if you want to move on, that's fine. If you want to stick with me, that's fine. But I will give you your £5,000 deposit for your house as like your character bonus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't like linked to anything. It was just, I need you in my company.
Commit to me for a year, and yeah.
And at the end of the year, I will guarantee you, I'll give you £5,000 to, and that'll be your deposit, because that's what they wanted. So I'm trying to save up £5,000 for my house deposit, and I said, well, like, I'll give you the £5,000, but you've got to stick with me for a year. And we did it. We gave them the £5,000, and they bought their first house, which was like,
oh, that's lovely,
amazing thing to do.
So when you've got sorry, Tom, when you've got people, you know, in front of you in the interview situation, you know, what are you looking for in terms of the interview? And I know enthusiasm is going to be part of that answer.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But what do you kind of in the actual interview? What do you like to ask, and you know, what do you like to hear? So what's the key question is, what's your favorite interview question? But around that, you know, what typically are you looking for?
Well, my interviews are quite relaxed, if I'm honest. Well, it's like a chat, and I'll tell them right that at the start. They come in, you know, I'm so busy and quite relaxed in kind of what we do, and we kind of set interviews out. We interview in a couple of ways. So if we're doing one-on-one, you know, we'll have the time set aside for them to come in, and I don't know why. I always love it when they come in. Everyone's like, just love the enthusiasm. Everyone's smartly dressed. They're just like, I've come for this interview with you. Just love kind of seeing them coming in all fresh-faced and kind of, you know, all smart, ready for but there's a little bit of fear in their eyes as well.
Of course, yeah.
So I move my microphone so it keeps moving, sorry. So they come in with all this kind of enthusiasm, but there's a little bit of fear in their eyes. But I try and put them at ease straight away, and I say, look, all we're going to do here is have a chat. And I don't really have like a set list of questions. I do, but I just talk to them and find out what they're like as a real person. Obviously, we talk about what's on their CV, if they've sent that in, and what they've sent me as a, you know, video, or whatever they've sent me as what we've talked about earlier. But I just like to make them really relaxed and just talk to them as one-to-one, as a person, and just see if they can look me in the eye and hold a conversation, because that's what we ask them to do in a workshop. Can they talk to someone face to face, look them in the eye, string sentences together in a cohesive way?
Yeah.
We do ask them to do, I think the biggest, maybe not my favourite question, we don't ask any curveball questions, but we ask them to do a presentation on something. And we give them free rein on that. And we say, do us a presentation on something you're passionate about, enthusiastic about. It doesn't have to be science related, doesn't have to be medically related, but just show us a presentation. And it's like, you can be 5 minutes, like 10 minutes max kind of thing. And we've had all sorts of stuff. You know, we've had someone tell us why, like the physiology of a T-Rex and why it wasn't very good at sprinting, and how Usain Bolt would probably out-sprint a T-Rex. And they put all the science bit. It's just like, this is great.
Brilliant.
We had someone do a presentation on teaching us how to draw. So there's me and my colleague, and they said they came with paper and pens, and they said, right, I used to have these pens and paper, and I'm going to teach you how to draw a face. And I kind of went through it, and they asked us to draw a face first of all, like what we can do now, and then they went, right, I'm going to teach you how to change this, and they went through a whole process and taught us how to draw a face. You know, we've had people just do presentations on what they've done in their degree, like on for their dissertation and their projects. So I think we had one that was looking at the psychology of penalties, which was really interesting. It was about the time of the 2018 World Cup. So, you know, Harry Kane was scoring like penalties for fun, and it was really interesting to look at the psychology of practice versus not practicing. And so, yeah, that's kind of my favourite thing to do, is ask them to prepare a presentation.
Yeah, I subscribe to that as well. So many companies are like, well, we need you to do a presentation on our products. Why? They're at a disadvantage straight away in an interview, because you know what you do better than they do, because you do what you do. So what you're testing and what you're looking for there in these young people is, show me how you communicate, get me on board, get me as passionate about what you want to tell me about. You know, it's sell
me on something I know nothing about. And if you can do that, then
Yeah.
you're in.
And
Yeah,
how good
it's-
was your drawing?
Well,
Did it improve?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm quite a good drawer. My wife would disagree, but when I draw kids pictures for the kids, yeah, it was pretty cool picture. But we've had some. Although it's great, we can see which candidates are going to be really good. It also helps us pick out candidates that aren't going to fit.
They're going to
They
struggle.
freeze, or they lose their words. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you're coming for an interview and you're going to do this presentation, if you're not relaxed and you can't talk to just one or two people in front of you, and I understand it's probably a pressure situation with kind of being an interview, but it does help us. Like, it's almost, you want to stop them, but you don't want to stop them there. You let them finish, and then you can kind of have that conversation. We did do something similar. I know you two have been around kind of EC. We did like the X Factor interviews a few times as well, having loads of people in, like 4 or 5 people in on a morning, and went through a whole process. And one of my favourite questions there is, tell us. We give them an exam, and they have to sit an exam on us, and they have to tell us what we do through anything, again, written or drawing a picture. And we've had some really cool pictures drawn in those about.
But Helen and I have a slight sort of not disagreement on this one, but I'm a big fan of just sort of coming out and saying, right, first question, tell me something about my business. And if they can't, right, bye.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done any research.
Yeah. But like in the exam, we have like people drawing like pictures of bodies and organs and stuff, which was quite cool. We don't do that anymore because I quite like the kind of one-to-one technique, because the main roles we interview for now are kind of delivery roles where we have to kind of put people out on the road and stuff. So that kind of technique doesn't work too much on these roles.
So what's been your absolute favourite one of that then, in terms of do something that tells us what we do?
I think it was like literally someone drew a picture of a body, like head to toe, like an outline of a body, and then labelled parts of the body, linking them to parts of the company.
Whoa,
really
that's smart.
That's
like
really
that.
clever.
but they didn't know they were going to be asked that question.
No. Well, they'll probably guess, they're going to get that question, tell us what you know about the company and things like that, but not in the way that we ask the question.
Wow.
Yeah. We offered them a job, and then they said yes, and then 2 weeks later they said no.
No.
Yeah. They said their boss at the other company offered them a pay rise, they're stuck there, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Deary me. Wow. Tom, amazing. Thank you. That's been really helpful. We try and keep these short and sweet so that people get a chance to listen to them in their lunch breaks and stuff like that. Thank you so much for coming on. If people want to have a chat with you, Tom, sorry, I'm just waving at my builder. It's just turned up.
We'll all wave.
On screen on YouTube. Hello, we'll all wave. Everyone's waving. Yeah, but if people want to, maybe they want to come and work for Medical Mavericks, how do they get involved? Because our audience is younger, but obviously you have an exciting company to work for, an enthusiastic company to work for.
Yeah, so probably two things to do. You can go to the website, which is medicalmavericks.co.uk, and there is a student area on there, and there's loads of resources on different careers that you can go to the NHS. But you can use the inquiry form on there, and just drop us an inquiry saying, "Hey Tom, heard your podcast with Ash and Helen. Really love to come and work for you at some point in the future."
Yeah. or send you a video.
Send me a video. You know what? Exactly that. Send me a video. The best email will be something like hello@medicalmavericks.co.uk, and they'll come through to me anyway. So that'll be lovely.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. You're an absolute gem. And as I say, I wish there were more of you. I'd love to see your company just in every school in this country. It'd just be awesome.
So would Tom, I think.
Yeah. I'm sure the NHS would too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate.